We need to build new trade relationships in order to move from reliance to resilience. And it's truth that Canada has long benefited, and we are very grateful. We have long benefited, we did say thank you, long benefited from our proximity to the world's largest and the world's most dynamic economy. But as the U.S. changes dramatically its policies, and that's the right of the United States, as it changes those policies, many of our former strengths have become our vulnerabilities. We still, to be clear, we still have the best trade deal with the United States. Over 85% of our goods move tariff-free across the border. But with American tariffs, so-called 232 or strategic tariffs on autos, steel, aluminum, forest products, I could go on, but in these so-called strategic areas, those are creating deep challenges for our workers and firms in those industries, industries that until now had been highly, highly integrated with the United States to the benefit of America as well as Canada. And our response begins by reimagining aspects of North American integration. And to be absolutely clear, Canada, like Mexico, Canada remains open to deeper integration, including options for Fortress North America in selected sectors. And to be clear, those offers are on the table. But if that route is not ultimately possible, we will invest heavily in new markets and products. We'll reward those who build, buy, and produce in Canada, and we will build new partnerships abroad. We're already applying the main lessons of the past 18 months, that we must build our strategic autonomy. Now, that starts with meeting our NATO obligations. Meeting our NATO obligations, and it has to be said, for the first time since the fall of the Berlin Wall. We are in the process, beyond that, moving forward, of catalyzing $500 billion of investment in defense and security and resilience over the next decade. But it means more than that. Building strategic autonomy means more than defense and security. It means building new, reliable partnerships abroad. We've signed in the last year 20 new economic and security agreements across 5 continents. We're on track to conclude major trade agreements this year with India, with ASEAN and Mercosur. And the early results of this strategy are encouraging. Non-U.S. exports are up sharply. We're on track to double them this decade. Foreign investment in Canada is at its highest in 2 decades, and it's running more than twice the rate, adjusted for the size of our economy, of all other G7 economies. And we're making this progress. We're making this progress because Canada is blessed with what the world wants, from energy to critical minerals, from aerospace to AI. We're making this progress because we have the values to which much of the world aspires, including commitments to sustainability, the rule of law, the belief that openness brings strength and mutual benefit. And we're making this progress in part because we've recognized, in some cases before others, the degree to which in the new world sovereignty requires more than a country just being able to feed, fuel, and defend itself, as important as that is. It requires access to those critical minerals, to space-based communications, to sovereign cloud, AI, payment systems, clean energy, and vaccines. And all of that demands partnership. And there's no one-stop shop for that partnership. We need a variable geometry, a dense web of partnerships across those core strategic capabilities and issues, drawing on common values and interests, because it's those common values and interests that will assure alignment and respect to those agreements. So from the coalition of the willing to support Ukraine, where we're one of the largest per capita contributors, to the G7's Buyers Club for critical minerals, and our AI partnership with India and Australia. For Canada, this also includes being the only non-European country to join SAFE, the European Union's Defense Procurement Initiative, and it includes intensifying defense, security, and economic partnership with the Nordic countries. We have to take risk, big risk. We have to take risks again. Because in a crisis, fortune favors the bold. And so what we're doing is to motivate that risk-taking, taking risks as government, but also drawing on Canada's history, on examples, and giving people agency. History is the easy bit. Canada was built by Indigenous peoples and voyageurs who mapped this continent and built trading networks from coast to coast to coast before, with due respect, the Americans had even left St. Louis. Whenever we have something over the Americans, we're going to use it. I'm sorry. After the Second World War, Canadians built new neighborhoods for hundreds of thousands of returning veterans, new universities, the St. Lawrence Seaway, the Trans-Canada Highway, Expo 67, inspiring the world. The point is, we used to build in this country, and we're building again, big, fast, bold. $1 trillion of investment is our target over the course of the next 5 years. Second, we're drawing on examples. I can think of no better one. By the way, if you ever want inspiration, interview an astronaut. Last month, I had the privilege of speaking to the crew of the Integrity, and I asked Canada's astronaut, Jeremy Hansen, about advice for Canadians. And he advised us that we have to be willing to take risks. This is a quote. We have to be willing to take risks, recognize that there'll be setbacks, push through them, because in his words, ultimately know that we are going to persist and we will win. Thirdly, giving people agency. This goes back to taking back control. So in the tariff crisis, and I don't think it's an overstatement to call it a tariff crisis, the response of Canadians has been exceptional. Canadians have been keen to do their bit, effectively, do their bit, buy Canadian, visit their country. So help make that happen. It's clear labeling. It means the government following their example with a buy Canadian policy, which we now have. It means seemingly little things, but incredibly important things. We introduced something called the Canada Strong Pass, which meant cheap rail travel for youth and families, free visits to national parks, museums, exhibitions. Over the course of the summer, we extended it over the holidays in the winter, and now over this summer. Huge increase in domestic tourism and spending, up to, depending on how you measure it, around 20%, paralleled by about a 35% fall in cross-border visits. Means something else as well. We are in the early days of creating a sovereign wealth fund. Now, we're not short of capital in this country. We're not short, as I mentioned earlier, of capital that wants to come in and invest in this country. We are going to create a tremendous amount of wealth in this country through these nation-building projects. That is going to benefit all Canadians. It's going to benefit their children, bigger economy, better jobs.